Hey guys! So today we're going to again be looking at parallel lines and transversals. So I know we did the foldable, so we kind of went over this. So again, a transversal is whenever a line intersects two other lines. And this one we're looking at as though we have two parallel lines. So they're going in the same direction, they're never going to meet each other. And then the transversal goes through those two lines, like that. So this will be the transversal. And then these, of course, would be the parallel lines. Okay, so if you have two parallel lines and they're cut by a transversal like this, corresponding angles, so angles that are in the same position between the two intersections, so like this one's in the top right corner, corresponding angles are going to be congruent, which means they have the same measure. Okay, I am going to erase those two things, put my transversal back. Alternate interior angles, so they're on the inside of the two parallel lines and they're on opposite sides of the transversal, so they look like this. Okay, those are also congruent. This sign just means congruent, and again I'm going to go and write it out so you know what it says. Okay, so anytime a parallel line is two parallel lines or more are intersected by a transversal like that, and you have alternate interior angles, they're going to be congruent or the same measure as one another. Alternate exterior angles, so on the outside of the parallel lines and on opposite sides of the transversal, are also congruent. And again, that little symbol, the equal sign with a little squiggly over it, just means that they're congruent or the same measure. Okay, if you have same side interior angles, so if they're on the same side of the transversal and they're on the inside like that, in between the two parallel lines, they're going to be supplementary, and that just means that they add to 180. Okay, and then if we have same side exterior, so again they're on the same side of the transversal, but they're on the outside of the two parallel lines, they are also going to be supplementary. Okay, so they're also going to add to give you 180. So again, supplementary means adds to 180, the two angles do. So if you add the measure of the two angles, you're going to get 180 degrees. Or if you only have one of the angles, you can subtract that from 180 to get the measure of the other one. And then, if you recall from Unit 1, vertical angles are always congruent. So I'm going to erase this. So vertical angles is whenever two lines intersect each other like that, and then they're just directly across from one another like that. So it's vertical angles. They're congruent. We already talked about that. And then angles that form a linear pair, which means that they make a straight line together. So you make a straight line and you have two angles formed by that line. If you do like that, they're always supplementary, because you can see it makes up a straight line, and a straight line has 180 degrees. So again, congruent means they have the same measure, and supplementary means if you add them together, they're going to add to 180. So we're going to go ahead and start out by identifying the angle pairs and then telling whether they are congruent or supplementary. So angle 3 and angle 5. You can see these are on opposite sides of the transversal, but they are in between these two parallel lines. So they are alternate interior angles. So if you go back up here, alternate interior angles are congruent. So they're congruent. Okay? Angles 1 and 8. Okay? They're on the same side of this transversal and they're on the outside of the parallel lines. So they're same side exterior angles. So that would be same side exterior are supplementary. And from here on, I am going to go ahead and do it out like this, where I just use the congruent symbol, or SUP, S-U-P-P, and then same side exterior would be S-S-E-X-T. You'll see I'm just kind of shortening it so I don't have to write as much. 2 and 6, okay? If we look at angles 2 and 6, you can see that this one's on the exterior of the two parallel lines, but this one's on the interior. But they are in the same position. They're in the top right position of the intersection. So they're corresponding. And again, I'm just going to put CORR dot. So corresponding angles, if you look at the top, are congruent. So because they're corresponding angles, they're congruent. Angle 1 and angle 7. Okay, they're on the outside of the parallel lines, and they're on opposite sides. So they're going to be alternate exterior angles. Okay, so that means if you check up there, alternate exterior angles are congruent. Okay, 4 and 5. Those are on the same side of the transversal, so they're going to be same side. Okay, and they're in between the two parallel lines, so they're same side interior angles. So if you look up here, same side interior are supplementary. And again, I'm just going to put SUPP. Okay, 3 and 7. Okay, so again, 3's on the interior, but 7's on the exterior. So you have to see if they're corresponding now. And they are. They're both in the bottom right corner of the intersection. So they're going to be corresponding angles. So they're congruent. Again, if you look at the top, if you have corresponding angles, they're congruent. 5 and 6. Okay. So these actually make up a linear pair, because if you look, they make up this straight angle, and they look just like that. So since they are a linear pair, so they're supplementary, because they make up this straight 180-degree angle. And then lastly, 2 and 4. You can see they're on the same intersection, and they look like these angles we've got drawn up here. Okay, so they are vertical angles, and like we've got written up there, vertical angles are congruent to one another. Okay, so again, either way, they're either going to be supplementary angles and add to 180, or they're going to be the same angle and they're going to be congruent. Okay, so this tells us that angle 1 over here is 65 degrees. So we're going to find each measure. So angle 2, we can compare it to angle 1. You can see that angle 1 and angle 2 are a linear pair because they make up that straight line, this straight angle, so they make up the whole line. So they're supplementary. So we're going to have to take 180, and we're going to subtract this 65 degrees to give us the angle for that one. Okay, and that's going to give us 115 degrees. Okay, now we can look at angle 3. We can use whichever one we want here. We can go ahead and say, let's go ahead and say that angle 1 and angle 3, so the one that they gave us and the one that we're looking for, you can see angle 1 and angle 3 are directly across from each other on the same intersection. Since they're directly across each other at the vertex, they're vertical angles. So they're congruent. So angle 1 and angle 3 are going to be the same. So that's going to be 65 degrees as well. Okay, so I'm going to write it like that. Now we'll look for angle 4. Once again, we can say that we can use any of these angles because they either are vertical and the same, or they make a linear pair. So let's go ahead and say that angle 1, let's go ahead and use angle 1 because it's the one they gave to us, and angle 4. So if we just look at angle 1 and angle 4, like this, okay, you can see that they make up this straight line like this. So they're going to be a linear pair. Okay, and so they are going to be 180. So this one's going to be 180 minus that answer again, so minus that 65. And once again, that gives you 115 degrees. So now that we have all of these, so we've got 65 degrees. This one's going to be 115, 115, this one's 65. Okay, I'm actually not going to erase the numbers, so we're going to need those. Okay, so now we can look at angle 5. We can compare angle 5 to any of the angles on the other intersection. Let's go ahead and compare it to angle 1 once again, because it's the one they gave us. So angle 1 and angle 5, you can see that they're both on the same side of the line, but angle 1 is on the exterior, the outside of those parallel lines, and angle 5 is on the interior. So we need to see if they're corresponding. So angle 1 is on the top left corner of the intersection, and angle 5 is also on the top left corner. So angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding angles, so they're congruent, so they're the same. So if they're the same, angle 1 is 65, and if angle 5 is the same as angle 1, then it's also 65. Okay, so this one's going to be 65, but I'm actually going to erase that because we don't need it. Okay, angle 6, okay, we can go ahead and compare it to any of the ones on the top, but let's go ahead and just do angle 4 here. Okay, so you can say they are on opposite sides, so angle 4 and angle 6. They're on opposite sides, so they're going to be alternate. And then they're on the inside of those two parallel lines. Interior angles. Alternate interior angles are congruent, so they're the same. So if they're the same and angle 4 is 115, that means angle 6 is also going to be 115. Okay? Now, we can look at angle 7. We once again can compare them to any of the angles up here. Let's go ahead and compare it to angle number 1, because it gave us angle 1, the problem did, so we know it's right. Angle 1 and angle 7 are, well, they're on opposite sides of this transversal, okay, because 65 is on the left and angle 7 is on the right, okay, so they're going to be alternate, and then they are on the outside of these parallel lines, alternate exterior angles, okay, that means they're going to be congruent if you check again. And since they're congruent, if angle 1 is 65 degrees and angle 7 is the same as angle 1, angle 7 is also going to be 65 degrees. Okay? Now, let's look at angle 8. We'll go ahead and compare it to angle 1 again. You can compare it to any of the others though. Angle 1 and angle 8. Okay? So they're on the same side. So they're same side of this transversal. They're both on the left here. But we can see that they're on the outside of these parallel lines. So if you connect them, they're not closed inside, so they're exterior. So they're same side exterior angles, which are going to be supplementary. So we're going to have to take 180 minus the one we know, so minus the 65. That's going to give us 115 degrees. Okay, so it's either going to be the same. Each angle on these are either going to be the same, or they're going to be 180 minus the other one. So let's go into the next one. I'm going to go over example 3, and then you're going to try example 4 on your own. And then we're not going to do examples 5, 6, and 7. You can go ahead and mark those out. Okay, so example number 3. So again, either that angle is going to be equal to that angle, or you're going to have that angle plus that angle equals 180. Those are going to be the two options you got. So it tells you that angle 6 here is 142. Okay? So now let's try and find angle 1. Angle 1 and angle 6 are on the same line, so they're either going, like on the same intersection, so they're either going to be a linear pair or vertical angles. Okay? You can see that they are directly across from each other and they don't share a side, so they are vertical. So angle 1 and angle 6 are vertical angles. So they're congruent, because vertical angles are congruent. Okay? So if they're congruent, that means they have the same measure. So if angle 6 is 142, angle 1 is also 142. Okay? Angle 2 here, we can go ahead and say that angle 1 and angle 2, okay, those are the ones we're going to be looking at. And again, since it's on the same intersection as like the two angles are in the same intersection, then they're either going to be a linear pair of vertical angles. Well, these two share a side. Since they share this side, then they are vertical, or are a linear pair. Sorry. So if they share a side, then they're a linear pair. If they do not share a side, then they're vertical angles on this case. Okay? So they're going to be supplementary, which means that we're going to take 180 minus the one we know in order to get the answer for the one that we want. So angle 2 is going to be 38 degrees. Okay? Angle 3. Now, we can compare angle 3 with any of the angles that we already know. Let's go ahead and compare it with angle 1. So angle 1 and angle 3, you can see, are going to be corresponding. Okay, so again, because one's on the inside, one's on the outside, but you can see once they're both in the same situation, the same position in the intersection, so they're on the top left corner, so they're corresponding, so they're congruent. Okay, so they're the same. So angle 3 and angle 1 are the same. Angle 1 is 142, so angle 3 is also going to be 142. Okay. Angle 4, we can see here. We can compare it to any of the ones on the other side again. Let's go ahead and compare it to angle 1 again. Okay, so angle 1 and angle 4. So they're on the same side. They're both on the left of the transversal. So they're same side. And they're on the outside. So they're exterior. So they're on the outside of the parallel lines. So they're same side exterior angles. So in order to figure out angle 4, it's going to be 180 minus whatever angle 1 is. So 180 minus this 142. So it's going to give us this 38 degrees. So angle 4 is going to be 38 degrees. Angle 5, okay? We can go ahead and compare angle 5 with any of these. Let's compare it with angle 2. We've got angle 2, so angle 5 and angle 2. So again, on these ones, if they're on the same intersection, you can tell that they're both touching this vertex. They're either going to be a linear pair or vertical angles. Linear pair is where they share a side. These ones do not share a side, so they're vertical angles. Okay, they're vertical angles. So they're congruent. So angle 5 and angle 2 are the same. Angle 2 is 38, so angle 5 is also 38. Angle 7 here, let's go ahead and compare it to angle 6. So angle 7 and angle 6, so those are going to be on the same side. So SS, same side of this transversal, they're both on this right side here, okay? And if we close up the parallel lines, they are on the interior. So they're same side interior angles. So they're supplementary. So we have that this angle 7 is going to be 180 minus the angle 6 that we have. And we've got written up here, angle 6 is 142, which is going to give us 38 degrees. So angle 7 is also 38 degrees. Then lastly, we can look at angle number 8. We can compare it to any of these because we have all the rest of the angles. Let's go ahead and compare it to angle 3. So angle 8 and angle 3 here. Again, they are on the same intersection, okay? So they're not on opposite intersections. So they're either going to be a linear pair where they share a side or vertical angles where they don't. These ones do not share a side, so they're vertical angles, okay? And so they're congruent or the same. So angle 3 and angle 8 are the same. Angle 3 is 142. So angle 8 is also going to be 142 degrees. Okay, so again, they're either going to be equal to each other, or you're going to take 180 and minus 1. Okay? If they are on the same intersection like this one is, like we've got highlighted here, 3 and 8, then they're either going to be a linear pair or vertical angles. Linear pair is if they share a side. Vertical angles is what they don't share a side. Vertical angles are the same. Linear pair is where you take 180 and subtract the one you know. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and show you angle 5 here is 82 degrees. I'll go ahead and mark it for you. Okay, I want you to try this example on your own. Okay, just make sure you see which parallel lines you're looking at. All three of these lines are parallel. This is going to be the transversal every time. This is going across here. Okay, go ahead and try. If you need something, so they're all going to be either 82 degrees or 180 minus 82, which is going to give you 98 degrees. So all of these answers are either going to be 82 degrees or 98 degrees. It just depends on which one you're looking at. So let me know if you guys have any questions on this. Practice on this one, and then you're going to have another video tomorrow. So I hope you guys have a great day, and I will see you all later. Bye.